Today's guest shares a story about a partnership gone wrong, the messy aftermath, and how he learned to trust again. Stay tuned for another great episode of Bad Boss Confessional. Hi, I'm Beth Fahey, and welcome to Bad Boss Confessional. I've been a leader for over 30 years, and I'll be honest, I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. The thing is, those mistakes taught me more about leadership than any success ever did. This podcast is where we get honest about the moments we'd rather forget and discover why they're the ones actually worth remembering. Each week, I talk with leaders who aren't afraid to share their worst boss moments and what they learned from them. Because here's what I know: every great leader has a story they're not proud of, and this is where we tell those stories. Today's guest is Dan Heuretz, a lifelong entrepreneur, 25-year member of Entrepreneurs Organization, and an EOS implementer for nearly a decade. Dan co-founded the Skinny Book Company and continues to inspire leaders through the Skinny platform. Known for his infectious energy, straight-shooting candor, and remarkable resilience, Dan brings real-world wisdom from decades spent building companies and reinventing himself along the way. Please welcome Dan Heuretz.
Good morning, Beth. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you on the podcast. I love our conversations anytime we have them. And I remember specifically a car ride that we had. We were in a car for about 4 hours driving to Detroit for implementer training. And I think like my mouth was like this. Like when you were telling me your life story, I've heard some stories before, but would you mind giving us a 2-minute history of your career up to this point? Because it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I remember that car ride well. First of all, that was great. And here we take a car ride, which is this, oh, I got to take this car ride to Detroit, not probably high on our list. And then you get in those conversations and it just flew by. It was wonderful use of time. So about me, so lifelong entrepreneur. It's funny when we do personal histories during EOS annuals, how many entrepreneurs started with the paper route. And yeah, me too. And I started with the paper route, but it taught me so many things, just waking up, showing up, having to do the work, which sucked at times, especially when you're a high school or junior high kid. And it's the last thing you want to do, but I had to make money. And that's been frankly, a truth of mine where I had to figure it out. I figured it out early that I was not well suited for employment, and that if I was going to go out on my own, I not only had to continually figure it out, but I had to really understand what I was trying to achieve. And at first I thought it was financial freedom. And really, I found out that it's much more personal than that if you're an entrepreneur. And I was looking for all these personal freedoms. Financial freedom is just one of the ways to get to those freedoms. But I've done things in the bar business, hotel business, country clubs, and golf courses. So hospitality is a big theme. I was in the real estate development business and the hotel development business. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of them right now too, but actually, in the introduction, you said nearly a decade long. I've not done very many things for more than a decade. I usually get the itch of what's next. And although I have a few things on my plate for what's next, this is the first time in my life that my foundation is firm with what the type of work we do together in EOS. And I think because of that foundation, it's actually has created a freedom for me, not only financial freedom, but the freedom to really understand how I want to have an impact. Uh, so that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Wow. So, with all those different industries, hospitality, real estate, hotel, now EOS, there has to be a story or two that you have from development as a leader. Like, do you have one in mind that you were hoping to share on the podcast or?
So I went through my filing system. I narrowed it down to 1 million different options of how I've had bad boss moments. One thing I just want to say as I was organizing myself for this podcast, every time I made those mistakes, it was just exactly what you were saying. It doesn't always happen in the moment, but it comes to me at some point in time, and I'm like, thank you. This is a really important lesson I learned. One of my core values is learning and the continuous evolution and improvement. It's these gut punches and pokes in the eyes and all these other things along the way. 100%. I think in the session room with our clients, invaluable. Um, it's just made me better as a person, because I see it. I just see the world differently.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you don't become a better leader by crafting a better spreadsheet.
That'd be a hell no in my world for sure. Yeah. And, we just did this. We had a retreat a couple weeks ago, and I used the words, I facilitated one of the exercises. I use this word, show up. And how do we show up? And I learned this from the story I'm going to say, our share today, how you show up and how you put yourself out in the world. This is the root of this. In this story is a root of where I learned I need to pay attention to how I show up in the world. And the headline, if I could headline this story, that you know we're a boss, right? So we're in business, and I think for the longest time that business was this professional endeavor, and there's this, I call it this fat line between personal and professional. My experience as an entrepreneur is that's a very thin line. And there's a line, but it is thin and it gets blurred, often. And so what I've learned is betrayal. So that's what I'm going to share the story about. Betrayal in business is deeply personal. And that that line, there's no way possible in my entrepreneurial experience to say that there are two separate things. I don't understand that concept. I don't know if you're a real entrepreneur, if you're saying, oh, I have these perfectly placed in two different buckets. I don't comprehend that. You get what I'm saying then. So this was the story goes back uh, almost 6 years ago. And it started off with some innocent comments. Something's off. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not adding up. Seems like they're saying one thing, yet it's another. And just little drips, but no definitive something's wrong. Something was off. And then I now recognize that my accountant did a very brave thing. I would use the word courage, it's one of my favorite words, and had a lot of courage and said, hey, I think your trusted right hand, the one who runs your business 100%, even though I own it 100%, is either really bad at his job or is stealing from you. And I remember getting mad at the accountant. And I'm not a person who gets mad, but I was just no, just 100% pushback. As much as I can get mad, that accountant was getting that at that time. And again, to the accountant's credit, just hung in there and said, you can't ignore this anymore. Enough things are off that I now know what I know. So less than a day later, our contractor that was doing one of our real estate projects came to me in his own different words and his own contractor approach and basically said that MFer is stealing from you. Yeah. So I had to make an uncomfortable phone call. I remember it well on a Friday night. And I told him that I knew, and I could tell, even though we were on the phone, I could tell that he knew I knew. He was caught. So we did this thing regularly on a Saturday where we would have coffee together. Literally just get together, talk about things that were going on, have a cup of coffee, and when the coffee was gone, our conversation was done. It was a perfect little catch-up thing. And that thin line of personal and professional was there the whole time. We were talking as much about family and life as we were business. And a little bit of context with this person. This person came to me out of desperation, was on their butt, and needed someone to help them up. I took it as a badge of honor that I was that person. I thought I knew more. I don't know what I thought at the time, but I could prove the world wrong, that I saw something that nobody else saw in this person. And I mean, one of the uncomfortable truths along the way is that this person had he was masterful at his craft of deception and betrayal. And this was a repeatable pattern. So I make this call. He doesn't show up the next day for coffee, although we said we'd have coffee. As a matter of fact, he goes dark, and I never spoke to that person for 5 years. He was running 100% of the business. We're 30, 40 days away from opening this property, this real estate development project we're working on. Everything goes dark, including deleting QuickBooks. And these projects cost millions and millions of dollars to build. Everybody towards the end of a project is looking for that final payment. And I have exactly zero intel on who to pay what for what amount. It was extremely difficult. And I went from uh, feeling very confident in the world to, shock and feeling very alone and lack of confidence. Like you mentioned in the beginning, I've been in Entrepreneurs Organization EO and for 25 years, and for 20 of those years in a forum with a very good group of people that are there to protect me. That's what a forum does, is they help the individual entrepreneur. And I remember, I'm going to ad lib a little bit for maybe for dramatic effect, but I remember telling them the story, and their reaction was, "Don't worry, there's light at the end of the tunnel." And I'd already heard that from a few other folks. And then all of a sudden, one or two people in my forum said it, and these people love me and trying to help me. And I remember just in this, and again, this is me. This is high, low. I'm the same person. And I was just like, as this is probably the most violent I've been in decades. And I was like, F you, light at the end of the tunnel. You get in the tunnel with me. I need light in this tunnel because I have no idea where to go. I need help. I'm desperate. I don't know what to do. Help me. I mean, it was just a plea like I've never plead, because my strategy at the time was to curl up in a ball and hope the whole thing went away. So as of course they did, they rallied behind me and were part of the reason that I recovered as well as I did. But that led me to calling my mentor, a gentleman by the name of Steve Perlman. I'm walking Steve through this whole thing. Steve had met this individual on many occasions, so knew the whole story well. And Steve said something to me that day. So this is about trust and taking accountability. So Steve said, you have to go there. You can't be blaming this other person. This other person's nowhere to be found. It's you. Go there, face the music, and just always tell the truth. So I went there. It's about a 4-hour drive. Drove there. About three hours and 50 minutes of the drive, I was going to turn around and go back because it was scary. And first thing I did is I met with all the investors and the contractors on the project. and told them the truth. People yelling at me, cursing at me, and uh, one of the one of the toughest moments of my entire life, when one of our investors, the lady just lost her husband. I think she's about 75, 80 years old, somewhere in there, just a sweet lady. And she walks, so it's like I'm sitting here and it's like me versus them, like, and there's this little space between them. There's like, I don't know, maybe 20 some people. This sweet lady gets up out of her chair, walks over to me with her finger in the chest. I can feel it as I just did that. I trusted you. As brutal as that was, thank God she did that. Looking back, I can say that because it changed my behavior, changed my mindset. It recognized how important it was to me and to stop blaming someone else. Because remember, my strategy was curl up in a ball and just hide behind it all and hope it goes away. If that would have been the case and she wouldn't have done that, I would have likely been in multiple lawsuits and in very severe economic distress. And ultimately, it took 64 people or entities to say yes to how we're going to save this deal. And they all said yes, because I went there, took the punches, and I just said, I'm going to do the right thing. I told them I'm going to do it for nothing, and you're going to have to trust me. The last thing they wanted to do was trust me. It was brutal. No question about it, the single hardest and most personal thing I've ever done.
Wow. I mean, thanks for sharing that story. I wish it were more uncommon.
Yeah, right. True.
And when I come from the bakery world, and when I was meeting with a lot of different bakers all around the country, I was on the board of directors of a trade association. I can't tell you how many of these stories I heard. And then I've heard it from my own clients, these partnerships that go wrong. And I mean, the trust that you had in that person. I mean, you trusted this guy so implicitly that he was running the entire business and you're, a couple hundred miles away. And and your whole reality must have shifted. Like the floor must have just come out from under you on everything that you knew or thought you knew about this person, about your relationship, the strength of it, you know, core values, like all of the things.
Yeah. And think about it. Us doing what we do, I'm deeply committed to core values. I'm deeply committed to right people, right seats. I mean, it's not only what we do, it's what you believe in. I mean, you deeply believe in this stuff, or otherwise you wouldn't be good at what you do. And one of our core values, so the core values are TEAL, TEALL. So the first T is truth. So find yours, speak yours, right? And E is for energy, and that's you get what you give. So right, if I give good energy, I get good energy back. A is for appreciation. So how do you find appreciation above being grateful, finding that those certain little things that you appreciate about people. L is for learning, and the last L is for love. And because life is short and we have one life, so let's live it with love. And so there's just all those. I mean, we would talk about it all the time. We'd be in the middle of a conversation. We'd just say, that's E for energy. We got to get the energy changed on this, whatever it might be. or man, this is what I really appreciate. I mean, it's just how we flowed, how we talked, how we lived. I'm super proud of that. It's like in many ways, it was textbook, and yet that's why the betrayal is so personal. Just
Right.
unbelievably personal
Right, because you were talking about your core values all the time.
all the time. How about this? This line. You ever heard of this line? Be their boss, not their buddy.
Ah, yes, I have.
So I am so clear on how I was the buddy.
Mm,
And that was part of what made me feel good about, quote, saving the situation, is he needed a buddy at the time. And I shirked my responsibility of being the boss.
wow.
Yeah, brutal lesson,
Yeah.
brutal lesson.
So looking back at the situation, because you had all this time to process and, when you blew up at your group about, seeing light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, not platitudes like that can drive you crazy, right? And people mean well,
Oh, heck yeah.
but it's just, I mean, when you're in it and you're up to your neck in it, it seems like impossible to get out of. But I'm just curious if looking back and you're reliving those conversations about core values and things like that, do you see where you were duped?
So going back to a second, then I'll answer the question more explicitly. So light at the end of the tunnel. And when I freaked out there and said, I need light in the tunnel, that's one of the bigger lessons within all this.
Oh, say more about that.
Because if I don't find the light in it, this is where I think things like mental illness, depression, giving up, all kinds of other things come from. When you're that scared and there's no roadmap, there's no clarity of how to get out of that situation other than just showing up and telling people the truth every day, um, you need that light, and you got to find it because the dark wants to win, and the dark is way more powerful than finding the light. It takes tremendous effort, and I think Steve Perlman, my mentor, actually saw that in me. He's like, if you get there in front of those people, they're also going to see the light in you, the good in you. If you hide behind email, they're never going to see it. And those 64 people that needed to say yes, so easy to say no behind the email, right? The out of towner, the this, the that, all the labels were putting on me. Um, they started going away because I showed up, took the slings and arrows, took the finger to the chest. Yeah. And told the truth. And I said, all I'm going to do is do the right thing. You're going to hear it because it's the truth. And sometimes it's obviously not going to be good, but it's going to be the truth that I have to share with you.
What I find so interesting about this story is that, for entrepreneurs, this is such a lonely place to be anyway. It's the whole reason Entrepreneurs Organization was founded, correct? And here you are living the most extreme version of entrepreneurship, which is you're completely on your own. This is all on you. Your neck is on the line. It's your reputation. And wow, that had to feel so incredibly hard.
Alone's a great word. It's a word. And that's why you need the light. You got to find it. If there's a message out of any of this, or there's any key takeaways, and you're in those situations and the light came from all kinds of just little places in the beginning where one just the first time. So that day after I got the finger in the chest, I'm at that kind, sweet lady's dinner table that night, and she made me dinner. I went there to just again, show up and get it over with was where I was at. I was just going to let her give whatever she was going to throw at me and just get it over with so I could figure out how to move on. But here she is, this good person. She hated this situation. She was very angry with me for letting it happen. But as we sat down and had dinner, the light was everywhere. This good person, and she was one of the champions. She was one of the people who said, give this guy a shot. And her voice was very influential. And that started opening the light up for these other people. And it gave the saving of the project a possibility where without it, there was none.
I think what you're talking about here is just such an important thing, and I don't want the listeners to miss it. I don't think they are, but it's being authentic, being your authentic self, and not some version of who you think you should be in that situation, or letting your ego, take the lead. I mean, I think what I'm hearing from you is that you showed up humble, you were authentic, you lived your core values, truth, and when people see that, it means a lot, and they're willing to give you a lot more to run with, when you show up that way.
Yeah. Steve Perlman, my mentor, saw that. It was clear to him when it wasn't clear to me. Because when you're in it and you're in that tunnel and it's that dark, you can't see it. Yeah. And the value of his not only mentorship, but he's a dear friend, the value of his friendship, he was there to help me. And another part of the light. The of all the things, I mean, there's so many things in this, but think how important the world puts an importance on trust. So it's earned, in my opinion. I've always was a person that trusted first and led with trust, and until you gave me a reason not to. I'm very clear on trust is earned. It's earned because it's I mean, real trust. It's hard to earn it and so easy to lose it. Think about it. In a week's time, everything was fine. A few things come to light between me and this guy, me and this project, me and this investors, me and this community. Everything was fine. And we had at that time what we all believed was a very trusted relationship. The course of from a Thursday to a Thursday, when I'm in that telling them the truth about what's going on, easily gone. Just it so easily evaporates. So it's easily lost, hard earned, easily lost. I have that in my head now. Now, when I'm going through some of the opportunities I look at now into the future, I'm talking about how hard it is to earn it and how easy it is to lose it, which is again goes back to my how do I show up? I'm showing up knowing that that's possible because I've learned that lesson and I'm going to be applying that lesson as I go forward.
I'm curious. I mean, if maybe this should come later, but I am curious, like how you move forward in the world, having had this experience without it informing everything else. I had a client who her father was stolen from, and she carried that baggage with her into everything. It showed up in the scorecard. There were 50 measurables on the scorecard, for example. The lack of trust, the micromanaging that happened. Like, how have you prevented yourself from going to a dark place, which I think is very easy for people to do?
Oh, yeah. Um, Again, looking back, the fact that I had to go there and just face it, it forced me in a way to I couldn't hide from it like I was going to hide it from it via email. I just had to go face it. What a blessing. I would not wish that on another human being ever. But you want to talk about, having to go through that hard, difficult, hard, deep work. I did it, and that helped me because people started seeing good in me again, and I needed that as part of the light. Um, but I so I got through that. Okay, so there's a mechanical part to this. I've got to check off a whole bunch of things on a checklist. I've got to get to the other side of it. We still got a business to run after we open this place, and we got to make money at it, all these things, right? And 5 years later, half of that group still never trusted me. The other half, I earned it back. That's tough for me. That's really tough for me. So I knew I needed to do something. And I did a lot of soul searching, spoke to a lot of people. And I mean, it's different, but I relate it to so many other traumas that happen in the world. I mean, some people have it way more difficult than I have it, but the people have PTSD, there's trauma as children from all kinds of things with parents. There's traumas in 100 different variations. This just happened to be mine. And the truth is, I went on a medicine based journey with a guide. And because remember the original words I started with something was off with me. And I actually thought it was something else. And in these medicine based journeys, they'll tell you that the medicine will find it and, present it to you. And of all things, this is what was presented to me. And that night, I not only discovered that, but I also determined I was going to forgive this person who betrayed me. So it was, and here's your range of emotions as you're saying that to, I want to kill him. I can't wait to pummel him, to where I ultimately ended up, which was, and I got one thing to add, just recall this. Don Tinney helped me. I've shared this with him, so he knows in much greater detail. So co-founder of EOS with Gino Wickman, but Don helped me through it and prepared me to forgive him. And I struggled for months with it. And I came out and prepared masterfully. I was able to contact him, hadn't talked to him in 5 years, contacted his sisters. I had no idea how to contact him. And his sisters, half of them said, "Get away from me. You're part of the problem." And one said, "No, I think it'll be good for both of you." And connected us, and we did it over Zoom. And I masterfully, because I practice, I wanted to make sure that I was heard. Because what I now know is forgiveness is for you, not necessarily the other person. By going through that, by going through that, uh, it freed me. It absolutely freed me. The journey presented it as I then knew I needed to do it, even though I didn't know it. It brought it out of me through a lot of people's time and patience with me to help prepare myself to actually do it. And I can't tell you how thankful I am for Don. He was the perfect way to bring it all together for me. And when I actually did it, I was masterful. I did do it exactly the way I wanted to do it. I'm really proud of it. And I got off that Zoom call with the gentleman. And I mean, it was an explosion of freedom and relief and whatever else was bottled up inside me. The weight of it all was gone. And because here you say it for someone else, but I didn't realize I was talking to myself. I told him I completely unencumbered forgave him. Any weight that I put on him or the situation put on him, he was free of. That's exactly what I needed to say to myself. I just didn't know it at the time until I did it. And the weight was gone. Oh my God, what an experience. It's the greatest courage I've ever had to rectify a situation was in that 28 minutes on a Zoom call. That biggest, maybe one of the biggest moments of my life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people listening will relate to your story of forgiveness. It is such a hard journey because, you're righteous. You know that you were wronged, you were betrayed. Um, and it takes so long to get to that point. So it's great that you had somebody guide you through that process like Don. Many people struggle alone and then just never get there to that place. And it is freeing. It is freeing to finally forgive people for something they probably, I mean, in this case, he knew what he was doing. But in many cases, people don't know the harm they're inflicting on others, right? But it's what a story. I mean, and so just for the listeners, I assume everything worked out in the end. The investors were made whole. There was,
We sold the project. We were made whole till the very end. Half of them trusted me, half of them did not. I consider that a victory. But I know I did the right thing every step of the way. And that's the best I could do. I'm very proud of that. And I'm not where before I was ashamed of the whole situation. I'm not. That was part of the forgiveness. I was able to let that go to the shame of it all. Um, so I can't tell you how often it appears now in my daily life, finding the light. It's everywhere. It's all around us. And now it's so easy for me to notice because when it's that dark, then everything it's easier to notice. But back to trust, you know, I I I'm still going to trust people. I'm not going to let that exception change who I am. So I'm going to lead with trust. And this is, I mean, sounds maybe simple, but man, it's so big for me to be okay that people are good. They're inherently good. I deeply believe that. That's my truth. And that I trust people and I never want to change that. I don't want to be going around and operating in the world as, can I trust this person? Do I trust what this person says? That's a terrible life. So getting past all that has been, uh, again, all part of the freedom. So it all it was worth the work to get to this point.
wow, what a story. Again, you blow me away with the depth of the things that you share. And thanks so much for sharing that with all the listeners. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are going to think differently about those dark times and finding the light. So thank you for that. We'll return to my conversation with Dan after a word from our sponsors. Do you love running on EOS? Try Strutty, the EOS platform people love. Native integrations and extra features help you manage people, projects, process, and engagement. Connected to your favorite EOS tools and all in one place. You love EOS. It's time to love the platform you're running it on. Try Strutty free at strutty.com. That's STRETY.com. Strutty, the EOS platform people love. Let's be honest, hiring the right people is hard. That's why I love Titus Talent Strategies. Their whole person hiring approach helps you find and keep A players who align with your values, and they back it with an industry leading guarantee. Best part? Titus Talent Strategies is included in the entrepreneurial toolkit for companies running on EOS. Check them out at titustalent.com/EOS. And now back to my conversation with Dan. Well, this may seem like very light, a light question to ask in light of all of the hardship that you just shared there. But I always ask my guests the question, if you were to get a tattoo that would remind you of this lesson or what you need to learn or what you need to keep in mind, is there something that comes to mind in the
Easy.
form of a tattoo?
Yeah, easy. I've done this work a long time ago. About 13 years ago, I first did this. I actually spent some time with Simon Sinek and figured out purpose or your why. And for the longest time, I had do good things with good people. It's still my purpose today. I know exactly what it means. It's not by chance you and me are on this podcast. I filter life through good people and I want to do good things with them. And as good, so I would put that tattoo on me in a millisecond. I would had to have modified it about 3 years ago, though. I had a little bit of a health scare, and I came out of this 45-minute MRI, emotional because I thought life was going to change versus the life that I knew because I was uncertain of how this health situation was going to turn out, which thankfully it turned out. Because I was working and seeing the light every chance I could. I wrote on this sheet of printer paper, do more. That's all I wrote, do more. And go through the scary surgery. I'm in the whatever it is, recovery thing. And it hit me. Do more good things with good people. And it's lit a fire inside of me. So we have this with my son, we have this startup. We're writing these skinny books for entrepreneurs. That's come out of that. There's a couple of things I'm working on, all to fill this do good things with good people and do more good things with good people. So yeah, hands down, that would be the tattoo.
Well, thank you for sharing, and thanks so much for being on the podcast. This was incredible. One of the most moving podcasts I think I've done to date. So I always well up when we talk, Dan, and it's in a good way
In a good way,
because
for
you
sure.
really do connect to the humans that you interact with, and
Thank you.
they see your light. So thank you
Mm,
so much for sharing yours.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks to Dan Heuretz for sharing his story about finding the courage to forgive and move forward without losing his heart or trust. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear this. Thanks for listening to Bad Boss Confessional. We'll see you again next week.